Christ has promised, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. I am the resurrection and the life, says the Lord. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. We have come together this morning within the strengthening fellowship of friends and family to celebrate the life of Marie Saxton, to share our memories and our grief with one another, to reaffirm our faith in God's unfailing goodness, and to hear again God's promise of resurrection, and to commend Marie to God's everlasting care. So this morning, as you, Marie's nearest and dearest, gather, we come to share our grief and our tears, but also to share some smiles and chuckles as we remember and celebrate Marie, as we gather here in person, but also you joining us online, especially Lindsay, her granddaughter from Australia, and Pat, a cousin, wintering in the U.S. For we all must agree that a life and a spirit such as hers cannot be captured or condensed. So we'll spend some time this morning together and start the healing process. Then following the service here, we will go to the Springfield Cemetery, where we will lay Marie to rest. But let us begin the celebration of her life by going to the source of all life. Let us pray. Gracious God, your steadfast love endures forever, your faithfulness to all generations. Trustworthy in all your words and gracious in your deeds, minister to us now in our grief. Speak to our hearts your words of comfort. Touch us into hope through the promises of Holy Scripture, and enfold us within the fellowship of all who share our sorrow. Fill us with the joy and peace that comes from above. In quietness and peace we wait upon you. Amen. Now this morning I would like to share with you some words from the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Well, I have chosen this passage this morning because it recognizes that as we live our lives here on earth, we are often faced with moments of sadness, of loss, and of tears. But that ultimately, no matter what faces us, God is there to comfort and support us, and of course, love us. Well, those of you who have come together here and virtually know that this in some way reflects Marie's life as well. A life that had more than its fair share of tears, but ultimately a life of comfort, of support, and of course, love. This blessed with love, began as she was born into the family of George and Clara Cady in Springfield about 90 years ago. She was blessed to grow up in that community and kept connected to it throughout her life. She attended public school there and then did a couple of years at East Elgin in Aylmer before finishing her education at the business school in Tillsonburg. Her first job, when she got the certificate, was to work at McConnell's Nursery on Nova Scotia Line. She boarded with the family in the week and then went home for the weekends. But thank goodness the McConnells were kind enough to have a place for her because it worked to her advantage. You see, they lived across the road from the local ball diamond. All the boys came to play ball there, and all the girls, including Marie, wandered over to watch. That is how she met and fell in love with her husband, Jack. They were married in 1954 and were blessed with the births of Wayne and Wade, Daryl and Lori. But this time of happiness was twinged with sadness, as Marie lost her beloved mother Clara shortly after. And then, of course, 12 years after that, Jack died in an industrial accident, leaving Marie with 4 kids, aged 9 and under. But she did not let these tragedies defeat her. She continued with her kids on that property, even if it did mean she needed a little help from time to time, like mowing the lawn, or at least servicing their old green mower. She would have to get it fixed regularly, so needed to call Don Irwin's garage. And he would send over his mechanic, John Saxton. Well, this eventually developed into a courtship. Now, Wayne remembers the kids became very fond of John very quickly, probably because he would ride his Harley over and squeal the tires, leaving black marks on the newly laid sidewalk. The kids were hooked, and so was Marie. So in '68, Marie and John, or Nana and Papa, began their life together. They shared many adventures together, whether working at the farm on John's business or traveling all over the place for their fifth wheel. Marie and John were well blessed with 53 years together, and many of those years included escaping the Canadian winter by heading to their place in Florida, enjoying the community and the friends that they made down there. So here now to share some stories is dear friend Jim Crane.
Thank you very much. This time I want to thank the Brown family and the Saxton family for giving me the opportunity to speak today. So anyways, I guess we first met the Saxtons. I knew who they were 15 years ago at the complex, at the shuffleboard. And anyways, my first day at shuffleboard, who did I get to play against? John Saxton. It wasn't much of a game, John. John had no mercy on me. And I want to talk about, especially about John. I have a reason for this too. John took no mercy on me. I think they beat us by over 100 points. He kind of tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "You'll learn the game later," with that little smile of John's. He's quite known for that little smile. Anyways, about 4 months ago, there was a burial service at Elmore Cemetery for John. And anyways, the minister said, "Is there anybody from the family who'd like to speak about John?" Nobody did, and we actually went back to the Saxonian Hall afterwards, and Marie comes over and tapped me on the shoulder. She says, "Sonny boy," that's you. She referred to me as Sonny boy. She said, "I'm a little ashamed of you. I thought you'd be able to say a few words." I said, "Marie, I wasn't asked to." She said, "That never bothered you before." So anyways, that's where we're with Marie. Now we're going down to Florida, and we spent 6 winters in the same park as them. Very enjoyable winters. John was a great shuffleboard player, and he's down there. He was #1 for many years. But anyways, John and Marie lived in a trailer approximately, 250 feet from where the park was. And they had to walk straight up the line to get to the shuffleboard. And John was usually one of the last ones there, but the women just thought John was the greatest down there, if you can imagine that. Anyways, he was always so well dressed. He wore they commented about his jeans. He wore designer jeans, they pressed the knives. His shirts were always starched, the collars. Even some of the women picked up his his socks matched these shirts. That's how well dressed he was. Now, playing shuffleboard wasn't a big thing for him there. It was the hugs. John was known for his hugs. It don't matter where he went, the ladies all wanted to give John Saxton a hug. And he took advantage of that. He's never turned one down. Actually, he even went and played bingo nights by himself, and he actually got a lot of hugs bingo too. He said, "How'd you make out last night, John?" "Oh," he said, "didn't win any money, but I got a lot of hugs." So that was always important to John. And anyways, to even make this story worse, my wife Judy, she said that she never got hugs from a man any better than John Saxton. That was embarrassing to me. But anyways, the next thing we're going to mention is John and Marie sitting in their love seat in the trailer. They had a corner locked, and where they were situated, nobody could get by that trailer without John and Marie seeing him. But John would doze off a little bit. Nobody got by that trailer without Marie seeing him. But I'd go by there, and she's not stopped in sometimes, She said, "You got stuck up today?" She loved to talk to people. Everybody knew Marie in the park. Actually, Marie at that particular time, one of their closest friends down there was, when they were there, was, of course, Ron and Carol Shackleton. Marie thought the world of Ron. Anyways, the next thing we're going to talk about is when we were down there a few weeks in Florida. We were back and forth with them a lot. And this particular night, we were at their house playing cards, and a friend of mine by the name of Larry Pigram, he worked at the tobacco factory for years. And anyways, we played 3 or 4 games of cards, and Larry says to Marie, he said, "My gosh, Marie, when you worked at that tobacco factory, you were a real looker." "Oh," she said, "I was not." Larry said, "Oh, yes, you were." And he named 2 or 3 other guys that mentioned her name. "You were a looker." Well, I'll tell you, Larry Picker made a friend from that day on. She'd ask me, she quite often asked, "Have you talked to Larry Picker or lately? How's Larry doing?" So, well, anyways, that was a good story. Well, the next one we're going to talk about is Ron Shackleton with it, and Carol. We went out for supper with them one night, the 6 of us, and it was a nice place to go for supper. Come to a nice restaurant, sitting at a round table. And that particular day, Marie got her hair all done up, and she looked like a queen. And anyway, she had her toenails done, her fingernails, and just the day before, she taught John into taking her over to Tampa to some nice clothing store, and she had a brand new outfit on, and she did look the nines. Well, Ron, he waves the waitress over, gives her a wave. Before she come to service, and she says, "Doesn't my mom look nice tonight?" Anyways, and she did look nice. There's no question about it. Well, the waitress turned that on poor old Ron. She looks at Ron, and she looks at Marie, and she says, "Are you sure that this isn't your daughter?" Said to Ron. Well, that time on, Marie got big bangs out of that. She mentioned that to me half a dozen times. Ron pretty well got the best on most occasions, but she actually going back into how Marie thought about Ron and myself. She said, "There's times I could just throttle you 2 guys," but she just loved the attention. She just loved it. My wife Judy and Marie become very close friends over the years, and they Con, John, and I had taken them out for dinner many times. We dealt back and forth to each other's trailers for dinner. They did sewing together. They talked on the telephone. Actually, they were in conversation right within a few days before Marie passed away. Marie was another mother to Judy. Anyways, I'm going to finish up by saying that 8 weeks ago tomorrow, I had the opportunity to sit with Marie, have breakfast with her. Her grandson, Christopher, was there, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "Why don't you come sit beside Grandma?" I said, "Well, I'd love to do that," which I did. I took his place. And anyways, she said, "Where's Judy?" Well, I said, "Judy and my daughter have gone to the East Coast on vacation." And so we had quite a chat together. And she says to me, what are you doing the rest of the day?" Well, I said, "I'm going out to listen to out the Legion in Dorchester, listen to music, maybe watch some of the dancing girls dance." Well, she said to me, she says, "Sonny boy," she said, "you make sure you behave yourself when you're out there." So she's just like a mother to me. Anyways, I've really thought about that a lot, what she said to me, and I said, "Well, I think I am going to start behaving better." And I said, "Hopefully someday, I know Marie and John are up there in heaven, maybe I'll see them again up there in heaven someday." And anyways, I'm going to end with that. I want to thank the families for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Yes, Marie was definitely blessed in the adventures she shared with John and with their friends and community. And of course, the blessings that he brought into her life, not least of which were his 2 sons, Doug and Bill. This reconstituted family knew many years of happiness together, but sadly some dark moments as well, when Lori and Doug were killed together with other friends in a car accident. And then again, his son Wade died in that terrible multi-car crash on 401 in '99. Yet again, Marie did not let these tragedies defeat her. She continued caring for her family, enjoying her travels with John, but also the quietness of staying home on the Saxton family farm, a farm that had been in the family since the 1800s, when they came to the area as United Empire Loyalists. The roots not only Marie had in the area and in the community, but also with her family, were strong. And from these roots, she took courage and strength, especially as her family and her life was enriched by the introduction of her children's partners, and then, of course, her beloved grandchildren. So here now to share some thoughts is Jackie, Marie's daughter-in-law.
Thank you. I will apologize, I'm not a public speaker, but I did write a little something down as far as Nana. So Lori can attest one of the first times we met Nana was, mine was in 1975 when I was 15 years old, and that would be a day that would change my life forever. And in good ways. Some of them were a little sketchy at times, but I was about to meet the woman who would become one of the most important people in my life. She would teach me about strength, perseverance, and healing. There she was, broomstick in hand, shooing Linda the goat off the porch. Linda was eating all her porch flowers. And at that moment I was wondering, what the hell am I doing here? But as time would go by, I would learn that I was in the right place at the right time. I finally knew that I was becoming part of the family when those to-do notes, me and you guys remember all those to-do notes? Was actually addressed to me, and not to Tallulah, which was the pet name she had for the women in her children's lives that she wasn't sure of or didn't like. Nana's life was filled with many hardships, which she took in stride. She didn't let anything or anyone deter her. I gained strength from her, and I'll never forget our many camping experiences and adventures, and she taught us quite a bit about camping. Although our styles differed quite a bit. Her idea of camping was like a parking lot campground, and Dave and I, we like to camp in parks. Her idea was that we need to be close to a mall, so she can go shopping. And I think Lori's discovering that she did quite a bit of shopping. And, but we did kind of win her over as far as with the campfires, and she really liked Dave's cooking. I'm sad to think this year what Christmas is going to be like. She always made sure everybody had a gift, and even when my dad would come with us for Christmas dinner, she made sure that he would have something too. And they were always kind of unique gifts, but the one thing that we always got, and all my children got, was a calendar. So this year, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep track of what we're doing next year. Somebody else might have to be in charge of the calendars. The other thing that was very typical of these meals is you cannot have a meal unless you had pickles and cheese, the little plate that had to go around. And the other thing is Jell-O. I did not know there were so many different ways of preparing Jell-O. And my kids loved it, and they didn't understand why I didn't make Jell-O, and I just told them it's really too hard to make. Yeah, she'll be missed, but I do take Solstice and the many Nana memories I have. She made me feel not just as a daughter-in-law, but as a daughter and part of the family. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Marie certainly lived a life blessed in these relationships that sustained her and supported her through the times of challenge, but also through the times of joy. And always at the center of those relationships were you, her dear family. So here now to share his thoughts is Wayne.
You got it down to one page. Jackie, I've spent a good chunk of my life in public speaking, and I'm probably not going to do as well as you did. So, bear with me. First of all, thank you for coming. It means a lot, and both to Jim, obviously to Jackie, but all the people we saw last night who shared stories with us and continue to do it now. It meant a lot, and As the Reverend has said, we're here to celebrate a life well lived. So, the thing that worked well, the thing I appreciated from last night is I get to see a different side of my mother and Papa, right? But that's, as Einstein said, he proved 100 plus years ago, everyone's view of the world is unique, and that is true also of the relationships you're in and where you fit in the food chain. So, I appreciate the stories you guys shared with us from your point of view, and I'm, like Jackie, I'm going to share a little bit from this side of that whole relationship. Nana loved, I've got a list of things here, and they're not necessarily in priority order, but I'm going to touch on them. She loved pets, cats, dogs. When my sister Lori was growing up, she had pretty near every kind of pet under the sun. Horses, ponies, goats, pigs. There seemed the sky's the limit for that. So she got to see that, and yes, she loved travel, RVing, and all around North America, and obviously in the Florida part as well. So another thing she loved a lot was the Red Hat Society. So anybody here that it was in or knows of the Red Hat Society, she loved that. She talked about that a lot. Everybody's touched on the speakers so far have touched on the fact that she loves shopping, as my wife has discovered trying to clean out some of the closets and stuff. But us kids got it because her visit, we got to see that vicariously, because when all this Florida shopping usually showed up at the flea markets and stuff, showed up as Christmas gifts, Jackie, right? In our and I'll talk a little bit more about Nana's sense of humor in a minute, but one of the things she loved to do was wrap presents in a bizarre box that had nothing to do with what the contents were, and let you try and figure out what the heck was going to be in it. So that was always an interesting point. She was into crafts. I never saw a lot of that when I don't remember a lot of that when I was a kid. Maybe she was just too busy raising 6 kids. But she definitely got into crafts later, and she did so many things. She helped Papa discover new things that were going to become important in his life, including all kinds of crafts. She must have done some of this at gunpoint, because I've never seen Dad do anything with needlepoint or that kind of stuff. But she'd come up with this project. Oh, this is your dad made that. Really? I haven't seen any grease on it or a monkey wrench or nothing. What's up with that? And she had a talent for painting. That was one of the ones that surprised me, because painting, you can't fake painting, and it's not the clown with the numbers and the flower and the hat. But she did a bunch of really good stuff. She loved her grandchildren. And I guess one of the examples that I saw that I knew never happened in our lifetime, or in my time as a child, is when, actually started with my eldest son, Jason, when he'd come down for a visit or whatever, and she'd say, "Papa, go get that Z50 out of the showroom and put it in the kitchen here so Jason can sit on it and play while I'm cooking, blah, blah, blah." It was half the motorcycles were in the kitchen. So she reached out in her own way and touched people in her own way, and obviously we all have our own way, but hers was special. My next list is some things you might not have noticed about Nana until you got to know her fairly well. Because she usually kept a fairly tight lid on her emotions. She was fairly reserved. Still waters run deep, as they say, but there was a lot going on, but she didn't always let it out. But she had her own little private way to let you know that you were loved. And I think one of the best examples where I saw that is, I remember when Lori first met her. First time I brought Lori home, and it was that same meeting with the goat on the side porch. And she's trying to sweep goat raisins off the porch, and the goat biting at the broom and jumping around like goats will play and stuff like that. I looked over at that, in my head I went, oh God, this girl's gonna be gone before before the hour's up. But thankfully she stayed. What else? Yeah, she had an interesting sense of humor, and sometimes you had to pay attention to see it. Again, she wasn't overt, unless she was picking on Ron and Jim and a few other people, but she had comments and thoughts about everybody. Sometimes you had to pay attention to see them. And I remember one time my wife-to-be, she said to me, I'm not sure if your mom likes me. And I went, oh, she likes you. And she said, really? How do you know? I said, trust me, she likes you. I don't know how much later it was, but Lori came over to me when she'd seen Nana with somebody else that she wasn't really impressed with. And she took me aside and said, you're right, your mother loves me. So sometimes you need to see the contrast to know exactly where you stand. Yes, as Reverend said, she attended Springfield School, high school, Tillsonburg School. I like to think that she, or my wife made the comment, and I agree with it, she also attended the school of gruff looks. Right? And I think she got a minor degree in stubbornness at that school as well, so she did pretty well. The last thing, and this is how parents can drive you crazy even as you age, I talk to her pretty much every week, and usually on Sunday, and almost invariably, we'd be 3 or 4 minutes in the conversation, and she'd be going, did you go to school with this person, because they got a brother that does this, and she'd go down this lineage, or, and I'm going, no, Mom, I didn't know that person. I think I might have went to school with her brother or something like that, but she was always trying to pull things in, and I guess include me back here, because my job took me away from this town 30-odd years ago, so. But she was that was even her family and the community, which was her extended family, so. That's all I have to say. I just want to thank everybody for your thoughts, for showing up, and for taking part in Nana's life, because it was something to be treasured. Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Marie's life was certainly blessed with love. The love she gave to those near and dear to her, and the love she received back from you all. Her heart was expansive enough to hold so much love, the love that was expressed when she reached out and helped anyone who needed her. The love reflected in those strong bonds that united her with her family and her friends, her indomitable spirit, her courage, her patience, her dedication, her stubbornness. Her great love that shone so bright in your lives. These are Marie's true essence. And though her weakened body has ended, they never will. For Marie has been gathered to her Lord. She's entered that place prepared for her, a place where there's no pain, no suffering, no grieving. A place where she will know the presence of God, united with all of those who have gone before. A place where she'll never be alone. For she's entered that place of love from which she will continue to love you forever. For it is you, not she, who bears the burden of grief. You must heal your brokenness and continue to live. But that is difficult, and at times such as these, we need reminders to not let death defeat us. Love is the most powerful force in heaven or earth, and death cannot defeat it. You who are here today share in that sense of loss, the sense of pain, and that sense of being somehow less by the loss of her presence in your lives. These are all natural emotions when faced with such a loss. But to start to heal those wounds, it's important to realize that though you may now feel somewhat less by Marie's loss, you are in fact so much greater for having had her in your lives. And as you live your lives, you will hear echoes of her spirit in unexpected places. Perhaps as you enjoy time traveling and making new friends, or as you take time to spend time with the next generation, loving them and adding to their sense of community, or as you gather on those special occasions, surrounded by those you love, she will be there with you still. So for such a legacy, for such a life lived in love and joy, let us bow together and give thanks to that gracious, loving God for sharing Marie with us. Dear God of grace and glory, we gather together to remember your servant, Marie, and we thank you for giving her to us as mother, as grandmother, as friend, to know and to love as a companion on this earthly journey. For our lives have been enriched by hers, our world made brighter by her presence. But now with her loss, our lives feel emptier, and our world seems darker. As we gather today, and as we continue to meet in the days ahead, let us find solace in our fellowship. Comfort we who mourn. Console us in your boundless compassion, that today together we may begin the grieving process. Let us feel neither shame in tears nor guilt in laughter, as we reminisce and remember, and open our hearts to one another, so that the bonds of love that tied us to Marie will now be strengthened and unite us all. And now let us unite our voices in that love as we repeat together the prayer you taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, please stand as you're able. Take courage. Go in the knowledge of the loving God as your eternal friend and companion.